Hello and welcome to our EV meeting at SMUD for November 2014. Here you have a list of people speaking tonight, so look through it. Our meetings are fairly long and you can pick out whatever you want to listen to and look at. At the beginning, at our pre-meeting, we had the VW New Golf E. That was a little difficult because it was already dark and I just put in a couple pictures. I did go to the dealer the next day to get some shoots, and it will lead into the presentation in just a second.
Hi, I'm Darcy Bramlett with Nilo Volkswagen in Sacramento. This is the 2015 e-Golf all-electric vehicle. It's $36,480 is the sticker price, and we're leasing them right now for $19.99 down and $299 a month plus tax. The 2015 e-Golf will seat 5 people. Both of the back seats, it's a split 60-40, and it will fold down, as well as it has the center pass-through so that you can carry long items and still carry 4 passengers. This cover right here will actually stow underneath this floor, or you can lower this so that you have a lower floor height, which gives you more room for hauling stuff in the car.
And we will close the pre-meeting with a couple more views of the car. It's a little glossy in the showroom and we have some reflection, but now we get to look under the front hood. The arrangements are a little bit different than what we're used to from electric cars. And then finally, we're going to jump into the inside of the car, get a view of the display, rear view camera, the shifting, and the regenerative braking possibilities we have at this car. So if you like it, go and have a look yourself. Thanks.
I expect that we probably have another 20 people down in the room below where the food is better, and so after they finish eating, they may wander back up here and join us. I'm sad to admit that I don't have any quiz today. I got just too busy trying to prepare what had to be done for this meeting, and so you're out the quiz, you're out the prizes. But I do want to point out that Laura out there has done an incredible job of creating again some SacEV garments or apparel, and especially as going into the winter, if you're thinking about how cold it is, this Arctic breeze air is coming down, get some long sleeves, some sweatshirts and long sleeve shirts. They look great. And donations to the Electric Auto Association, which those who come in, are always appreciated. And you'll probably see a message from me asking for donations in general over the next month anyway. So we're coming up to the season of giving, so I hope you can open your pocketbooks as well. Okay, so we've got a busy agenda today. We have a terrific set of speakers coming up that will be talking to us. And we're going to cover a number of topics. I'm going to try to hit some of them quickly first. Here, go through some short ones, and then we'll have the heavy hitters coming in toward the last 3/4 of the 2/3 of the program. So, and I want to point also mention there's restrooms right outside the door here. We want to thank SMUD for providing these facilities as yet again another example of the great partnership and the great outstanding organization that SMUD is. I've said it many times, and that is, anytime I see a SMUD power pole, I just want to give it a hug. These guys are just outstanding. I think we're so very lucky to have SMUD in here with us. And not just they're very bright, competent, smart, and terribly wonderfully cooperative people, but they're leaders in the EV world. They're one of just a very few number of utilities that are charting the course and setting the path for EV adoptions, and we're so very lucky to have that kind of leadership right in our backyard. So again, let's give a round of applause for the SMUD staff.
We appreciate all the exaggerations in the line.
Well, no, I've been in big organizations before, and it's hard to get such a broad organization so well aligned to be servicing the customers and the community like you do. So it really is not a small feat. Those of you that are wondering where David is, he sent me this picture today. This is on a train from Frankfurt going towards Stuttgart, I believe. So he's out there. He also sent like 8 emails full of pictures of all the electric cars out there. So he's having a lot of fun out there. Now, so let's talk about what's going on here with regard to the market. Before I actually show you some of the numbers, I want to tell you a little short story. This is where we, probably several people in this room, about 1.5 years ago, we did a show and tell of electric cars and a ride and drive at VSP, one of the big insurance and a vision services center. They're just off 50 in Rancho Cordova. And we put a lot of work into that. We had dealers come up, bring cars. We had a number of people bring their cars and put them in their courtyard. They spent about 3 hours over the lunch period and talking to a number of people. And we cleaned up that, went home. Next week, what happened? I mean, you kind of think that there ought to be something. We put all that energy, there ought to be something that kind of comes out of this. Next month, I don't hear anything. 1 year later, I hadn't heard anything. Last 2 weeks ago, I went and talked to the facilities kind of manager person that was responsible for that. And she is overwhelmed by the number of requests for electric charging stations at work. She's now going ahead and putting in and working on a plan to put in several chargers at the workplace, at VSP, because of demand by all the people that have bought electric cars. So we got to keep in our minds that when we share these great experiences that we have with EVs, people aren't going to necessarily run out that afternoon and buy a car. But it makes an impact. So the cars that they buy over the next year, the next 1.5 years, 2 years, their next car is likely to have a plug. So I think we can really feel good about it. Don't feel concerned that I don't see this. People aren't jumping right away and buying the car, but it's a constant forward movement that we're getting, and it's real. And so, how real is it? Let's look at. I don't have the October numbers. But if you look here, you can see, again, continual rise and continual climb. We've got good numbers for our region. We're getting up to 200. These numbers are about 30% underreported. Let's see, yeah. And if it's similar to the Bay Area, actually California-wide, any guess what percentage of passenger vehicles are electric plug-ins, including plug-in hybrids? Anybody hazard a guess? What percentage of passenger vehicle sales?
Sales.
Pardon me?
Sales.
Sales, right, sales.
8%. 3. In October or when?
Well, between 8 and 5 is the number that I've gotten from UC Davis, has been studying this. This is if you include pickups in the mix, it drops down to about 3%. But in terms of passenger vehicles, we're good at 5%. That's a big number. A lot of them are in the Bay Area. We're doing a lot of work here. Nissan has recognized a lot of this trend and wants to keep pushing this up. They have sent SacEV a sponsorship donation of $10,000 to help us put on more events. And we're going to be doing that. We're going to be stepping up, better material, better process we have. We'll actually get, we did about 25 events this last year. If we can do that again, I'll be thrilled. But we'll probably be looking at a significant number. So we're going to ask people, by the way, if you have an electric car, if you have a Leaf, if you could take a neighbor for a test drive in a Leaf, please do so. Please let me know. Take everybody in your neighborhood on a test drive in that Leaf, because we're setting a target to Nissan of a significant number of electric cars, Leafs, that we're going to have test drives over the year. George, you have something?
Okay. Again, all of the Leaf owners, we need you to get some very general information on that test drive.
That's right.
Person. Name and email are minimum, but essentially we want, and we need to be able to report something other than just, we did X number of test drives. We really need that personal information, but please do that. I know when I was driving my Leaf, and I mean, every one of the electric cars, we all do those ride and drive things. But get the information and then report it to Guy, report it to the website. We critically will need that.
Yes, in fact, we have decided we're making a contest. Each of the next 6 meetings that we have, we are going to do a to the person that reports to the most Leaf test drives that they've provided. We do a Starbucks card. Did we decide the denomination, George? $5? Oh, $50. That's I said we weren't that cheap, were we? $50 Starbucks card is going to be at the next SacEV meeting.
Starbucks card.
It's $50.
Oh.
Credit card, debit
Oh,
card.
debit card. That's right.
We're gonna have to write
Even better yet, $50 of money in your pocket through that debit card.
Guy, I have the form, I'll send it to you so you can put it out via email so everybody will.
Outstanding, Laura.
The one we talked about?
Yeah.
Sprouting
Okay.
leaves.
That's right. That's excellent. We'll
We're
send.
calling this program Sprouting Leaves.
And the reason we need the information is so that next year, when we go back to Nissan and ask for more sponsorship, that they'll be gracious enough not only to give us the same amount, but maybe more. Because one of the stipulations is ride and drives. So with all of our help, we can make it happen.
But the email addresses are not going to be shared. with
No, no, no.
No.
It's more of a
Auditing.
SYA.
Yeah, an
That's the only way I
honor
can put it right
system.
there. It's an honor system to Nissan.
The only reason that we would use email is if we actually had to audit lists, which we
Which
don't
they
expect to
never
do.
It's kind of just a gesture. Even if it's not an email address, a street address, I'm sure they'd be fine with either one.
Yeah.
The reality is that Guy does not trust me. Because I would be making up 20 names every meeting.
So if you don't have a Leaf, but you have a friend that's got a Leaf, invite them over a Saturday afternoon when a bunch of your neighbors are nearby. That works as well. So the Leaf, we need the Leaf test drives for that. I also want to introduce Amber. Amber is project manager with SMUD, not SMUD, with SARTA, which is Sacramento Area Regional. Pardon me?
I said, I am. How cool.
Yeah. And we are starting to do a lot of collaboration with SARTA on creating some promotion programs, some videos, a variety of different things to, again, accelerate that adoption. SMUD's bringing a lot to the table in terms of infrastructure, government contacts. It's just kind of an outstanding, I think they're excited about helping moving technology adoption in the Sacramento region. We're excited about moving electric cars, and together I think we can really be a powerful combination. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Is it possible that at a future date we could get some information about how SARTA interacts with SACOG and Clean Cities?
Yeah, I think maybe in the January meeting or such, we can ask SARTA to come up and give an overview of what they're about, and we can talk about some of the joint projects we're on. We're just kicking those off just in the last week. We've had like 4 meetings in the last week, and it's moving fast and furious, but it's exciting, and the pressure is intense to get some things even done by the end of the year. And I believe I'm going to have Yeshua speaking in a few minutes. I think you're on one of the lists here. We'll make sure to talk about one of the projects that relates to that. Okay, so looks good. This is we call it up and to the right. Char's magazine just reported and started looking up the details. The building codes are being changed so that all new buildings will have to have the infrastructure for electric charging stations. Not the stations themselves, but the conduit, I think the panel space, the variety of things that are being addressed. So any new building being put in, starting 2015, I believe is when this is going to take place. So if you know someone that's starting to build, or you can influence people, help them get ahead of the curve on this. please do so if you have any questions. Check with me, or I imagine Becky will be you'll be on top of this stuff all over the place. Okay. Another exciting thing, the CEC is coming up with a new program to work with lenders to loan money up to $500,000 to businesses that want to put EV charging infrastructure in. So, and what the CEC is doing is they're going to give the lending institution between 20 and 30% of the value of the loan in cash as to be a loan loss reserve, just to mitigate the risk. Now the kicker is, and this is the first time the state has ever done this, 50% of that, which is roughly 10 to 15%, is when the loan is paid off, will go back to the borrower. So once you paid off the loan, you'll get 15%, 10 to 15% of your loan back, as kind of a bonus. So we'll see how this works out. This should start Q1 next year. We've worked, we're already engaged with Five Star Bank, and we've got some contacts there that are very keen on working on the program. Yes.
Guys, we talked, earlier aside. Is there any provisions in this program to make sure that these chargers are maintained?
Well, I think one of the differences between this program and previous ones is previous ones paid for the whole charging station in many cases, and the business itself has to put skin in the game. I mean, they're putting in 70 to 80% of the cost of the infrastructure, so they've got some ownership in it in terms, and I think that's the difference. What we've been seeing, what it was just referring to, is a lot of the stations are having maintenance problems, and the owners of them, or the site in which they're located, are not stepping up to take care of them. And it's not even clear, they don't even know that they own them. We have a library, we have the city of Vacaville, we have Whole Foods has had that question. So this year we're going to have to figure out how we address that issue. And I don't know the answer to that, but it's gonna continue to get worse, I would expect. So that'll be a problem, a challenge facing us. Any questions on this before I rush on? Okay. Well, we have a special speaker this evening. Ms. Johnson has found out about what Ms. Johnson is doing, working with her mother at doing the parking passes at the Sacramento City, for full electric vehicles. And I heard about her, and I said, we've got to have her come in and talk and share with us what they're doing. Yes, it's right here. Whoop. There you go. What is this?
I did this poster for Green Team at my school. The Green Team is an environmental club that does recycling, composting, and plays in Project to Raise Team, an environmental club that does recycling, awareness, and promote a healthier environment.
Wow. Wow, so you're part of the Green Team. Huh? Is there something, do you want to add anything to that?
Most of the people at my school wanted to do walking and biking, but I knew that, but I know that most people like the comforts of their cars and want to drive, so I chose electric vehicles.
Wow, very good. You're not only brave, you're very articulate. You're very good with words. Well, I'm sorry, I'm missing something. Oh, Laura, no, why don't you come up? Would you do this for us, Laura? Because you were brave enough to come here and share this with us, and the work that you did to promote electric cars, we wanted to present you with something.
have a little thank you from us and SMUD for all your hard work on your poster. There's all sorts of things in there.
Thank
Hold
you.
that up. And there's more in there, so the shirt. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this. Pull out your shirt there. Why don't you show everybody your shirt? Yay! Get our picture with her shirt. Now you're an official member of SacEV.
Yes, our youngest SacEV member, Callie May.
And Kelly, as soon as you turn 16, Guy is going to give you his Tesla.
She will be so far beyond me, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
And I'll take this. Thank you very much, Callie. I want to make it clear that we will stop at no point to recruit. We're very serious, and membership is everything. Okay, Mark, can you give us an update on the rebate program? I guess there's some.
Sure. Okay, I'm Mark Williams, and I work for the Air Resources Board in the Zero Emission Vehicle Program. And I scared a lot of people a few meetings back when I talked about changes to our Clean Vehicle Rebate project. Essentially, to ensure that we had enough money to continue to fund vehicles, we've been looking at means to place limits on it, which included like income caps and MSRP caps, things like that. But the one item that really resonated with folks was the fact that we were talking about a lifetime limit of 2 rebates. And at the time, what wasn't clear was whether that was a lifetime limit per individual or per household. And I now know that it's per individual. So if there's more than one individual per household, you have additional opportunities to get rebates. But even more recently, they've determined that that limit is not going to apply to all of our existing transactions. So it will start January 1st, and going forward there will be some kind of unique indicator associated with each transaction, so that for any individual that has 2 unique transactions going forward, that will be their limit. But for those of us that have transactions prior to January 1st, those don't count against us.
Okay, so thanks, Guy. I'm Deepak Aswani. I'm in the electric vehicle group at SMUD. And I wanted to announce a new pilot that's starting next year for the next 2 years, for 2015 and 2016. We're going to be offering workplace and multifamily charger installation rebates. And it's in a limited quantity. It's planned for $1,500 incentive for the installation. And it's for any J1772 standard level 1 or level 2 charger to be installed. This has to be a hardwired installation. And there's a limit of up to 6 EVSC per applicant for this rebate, or up to 75% of the whole installation cost, whichever ends up being smaller. It's not a very large pilot. It's currently planned for only 24 workplace and 24 multifamily EVSC. And for this rebate, it'll be at a first come, first served basis. So to handle that, we'll have an application available early in 2015. And for applicants that meet all the eligibility criteria, we'll sign an agreement with them to make sure that they stay at the list and they can expect to get that rebate, because we're expecting this to fill up pretty quickly. Already have started to build a wait list, a queue of interested folks from multifamily and workplace. And so far, applicants that have approached us, they're not looking at 6 per site. So I think it's not filled up yet. So far, it's been at 1 to 3 maybe per site. We will be requiring sub-metering or a new service for these chargers. We want to gather data on what the usage profile looks like for multifamily and workplace charging. That's especially for multifamily, we see that that's not penetration is not nearly as high for single-family homes because of the cost barriers and a number of other reasons. So we want to help move that market and make it more accessible for multifamily. And for workplaces, more of understanding what the energy consumption is like for those individuals. So if you know of anybody that's interested, if you're a multifamily resident, have an EV, you're looking for charging at your facility, you can talk with your property manager about this opportunity, and my contact information is right there. I'll probably ask Guy if we can send an announcement on the email list about this, because we do want to make sure we can use as much of this money as possible to support. Yes, Becky?
2 questions. One, something that we touched on earlier, where will there be something put in place whereby after they've been installed and in 2 years when the charging station breaks, will they have some sort of requirement to keep them running for so many years? And I say that just because, again,
Sure.
in certain situations that we're in right now, the CEC's paid for charging stations and had them swapped out, and now they don't want to, they've called me to remove them.
Sure.
Because they don't want to pay for them.
We haven't thought about that yet, so I think that'll all be finalized by 2015. Right now we have the budget allocated and we're still working out the terms for it. But right now we haven't explicitly thought of that.
And then the next thing is can I work with you? I have a workplace charging piece on our website, and I'd like to be able to put that, just a link of some sort, if that's okay with you guys. We can talk later.
Sure, we can talk about it. Actually, it's supposed to go up on our website as well, so you can put a link up to that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
I assume there's going to be some kind of scoring criteria, and do you have any idea about whether there's going to be a preference for level 1 versus level 2? Or?
Right now, we do not have a preference, so that probably won't be in consideration. I think the scoring criteria basically it'll be mainly first come, first serve. And then I think some of the considerations we'll make is some favorability to entities we think would normally not do it on their own. They might be scored a little bit higher. And also there's some back-end cost on our side. So to best use whatever we have budgeted, maximize the number of, so basically to follow through on this 48, there might be some of those cost considerations on our side as well. Yes?
Since this is a goal of multifamily and workplace, why wouldn't you even limit it to level 2? I guess I'm confused why, if you're giving money out, why would you give money out for just a level 1 charger that overnight only one person can use?
Sure. So I'll give you an example. One of the multifamily, got on site with one of the multifamily candidates, and for them, they brought an electrician out, and if they exceeded 4 level 2 chargers, it means a panel upgrade. They were not up to code. They'd have to do a lot of demolition, and the estimate came out to do more than I think it was 5 or so level 2s. It was going to be like $50,000. And this was just running conduit above ground. It wasn't even trenching, wasn't even involved in this. It was more, I forgot the exact number, but it was more, they were hoping to do something like 6, but we found out it would cost more than $50,000 to do that. And this didn't even require trenching. So level 1 sometimes gives flexibility if there is a budget constraint, that it's easier to fit it with existing infrastructure. So you want to leave that opportunity on the table, especially if there are residents that are interested in EVs and it's no EV versus going with a conventional vehicle. Level 1 at least gives them some option to charge.
It's also a great opportunity to do both, whether you do so many level 2 and then also level 1.
Yeah.
Gives you that
Especially for workplace.
For
you
workplace,
have a captive audience that's there for 9 hours.
Even in your multifamily dwellings, again, going back to Deepak's statement, is you're there all night. So if you have a plug-in hybrid, level 1's perfect.
Yeah.
But then you have the level 2 for others that need it.
Yeah. And another thing with multifamily and workplaces is different than single-family home residential installations because the installation cost vastly outweighs the hardware cost. So the level 1 versus level 2 decision, that's a small component of the cost. It's really everything that goes into getting the power out to the charger. That's the real hurdle. Any more questions? Sure.
Just one. If it's the case that a common unit would have, their common parking area or something to that, is part of this requirement that the cost of, the electricity cost, which is minimal relative to the installation cost, how is that component added? So the site agrees to pay for whatever the electricity is, or do they allocate based on kilowatt hours, or how would they do that?
So right now we're leaving that up to the property owner or property manager. We're not prescribing anything there. There are some rules right now for example, if you're going to if whoever's that account's assigned to, if they're going to bill the individual drivers, there are some rules SMUD has for, and it's specifically driven by multifamily applications. So you have some rules for what the rates have to be and how you can charge for that. That may change over time. So that would only be, it would only be whatever current policies in place are, but there's no specific requirements beyond our existing policies as far as how the billing is taken care of for these chargers, the electricity for these chargers.
That may get back to Becky's concern or others' concern that the device may be in the ground and grid is there, but a landlord or building manager or something may be concerned about the cost of electricity and unplug it, or disconnect it.
Yeah, so we'll probably have to put at least like a 2-year. We haven't finalized all the details yet, but we thought we'd start advertising it early on, so we can start building a list of. What's that?
So it sells faster?
Well, I think it's more about just to have assurance, because there is a time frame on this money and things always tend to happen slower than you expect. So my hope is to make sure that 48, and we are able to support 48 by the end of this 2 years rather than 24. So I'd rather have more applicants and a wait list rather than fewer. But all those details will emerge early in 2015 as far as if it's. I'm guessing it'll probably be a 2-year requirement. I'm not going to stand by that just yet.
It's exciting.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Do you have, before you leave, I know it's not your part of the department, but do you have any, give us any updates that you know about with respect to the level 3 charging or the quick charging?
The fast chargers. So I don't know what has Ralph. Ralph has usually provided updates. I don't know where. I don't want to repeat what Ralph has communicated. Could you give me a quick update on what he's shared with the group?
For the airport, he said that there was problems with the ARCO facility there.
Okay. I'll give a quick update. So you're probably aware of one installation in progress at the Amtrak station. So that's still in progress. And I heard, haven't gotten confirmation, but I think we're up to the milestones that we need to be at this point. And it'll actually be commissioned in the second phase. My understanding for that site is right now we're doing all the underground infrastructure work, doing the trenching, running conduit underground. But the charger won't be commissioned until the Amtrak station renovation is in progress or complete. I don't know the exact details, so that might still be a year out, but I think we're pretty far along with our phase 1 of the work. And that was kind of part of the whole coordination effort with the Amtrak station work. The second site, I believe, in progress is Citrus Heights, but I don't know the details on that one, how far along we are on that installation. I think I believe the designing is done, and we might be in a permitting phase on that site. Again, Ralph Trout's the best person to talk to, so this is, I'd say 80% accurate.
Next meeting, do an update for us then.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you.
Where did I? Here.
Here we go. And this is where I thought we might have a little more fun too. Let me see here. We may pull something up. Is the VW rep here? Volkswagen. She did. Oh, okay. She was supposed to. Well, we'll at least do this, and that's the. Those of you got a chance to see this while I was out in the lot.
Sometimes goodbye feels like hello. The e-Golf, 100% electric. Der e-Golf, das E-Auto.
So we're supposed to have a sales rep here to talk about some of this, but basically it's just on the market. Some of the dealers, most of the dealers in the area are carrying it and have got it in stock just now. So yeah.
Volkswagen in Elk Grove should be up and running very soon with their cars and their charging stations. Milo, Volkswagen, they already have their cars, obviously. And then Folsom and Roseville are up and coming.
All right.
Their cars as well.
Good.
They're waiting for charging stations.
One thing to keep in mind, this one, their base price does include the quick charger.
And that's a SAE combo.
Yes, the SAE combo one.
That's made in Germany, not Mexico like the other ones.
Okay. So, going forward, how many people know, or how many people are real comfortable what cap and trade is all about? Oh, I got about half the room. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to do a quickly touch on what it's basically about. I'm not a cap and trade expert, but the speaker we thought we'd have tonight was not able to make it. So I'm kind of filling in with them. And those of you who know about cap and trade, please step up if I say anything wrong, because it may well be. But basically, this is a way to do a market-based type of regulation to achieve to reduce the greenhouse gases. So try to use the market to help reduce the amount of greenhouse gases we have. And that's attempts to do that by setting a total limit of greenhouse gases with that are produced by the major corporations that produce, I think it's 50,000 tons of greenhouse gas a year.
25.
Pardon me?
25,000.
25,000, thank you. And each business has given a starting point with a certain number of permits. And then the majority of those apparently are free when they start, because that's their business they were doing. And but there's some others that are sold by the state. The market, then these permits are able to be traded, bought and sold. So if you want to do something in the next year that requires additional permits, you can buy them from someone else based on this market. If you are able to reduce your carbon output and you've got unused permits, then you can sell those and bring in revenue to your business for that. And this cap is going to decline by 3% every year, so it gets tightened, and encouraging those people that have any business sense and looking forward to be moving themselves away from carbon generation, CO2 generation. This has raised, I guess, so far about a little over $2 billion for the state of revenue.
Actually, the amount for the state is much less than that.
Oh yeah, okay.
840 or 830 million right now. But the state, everything else raised goes back to stakeholders or ratepayers.
Good, that's important to know.
That are under IOU territory get a rebate right now.
Thank you, thank you. And I think some of that is used to fund the electric vehicle rebate program.
Yes.
Now, fuel was not included in diesel, gasoline. Producers of those were not included in were not subject to the original cap and trade. The agreement was, I guess they had a 5-year deferral or some number of years deferral. That deferral ends the end of this year. So effective January 1st, they're going to be subject to that, and they will be participating in the market like everybody else. And that's important because, I mean, the transportation sector alone does a significant amount of our greenhouse gases. So it really is critical that they are part of this program and start trying to drive down those emissions. There's been some talk that, about these hidden gas tax, and that's all part of a terrible thing. But those are generally based on numbers that were put together, modeling. It was put together before the program even came online several years ago. Right? They were based on some of these numbers as high as $70 a ton for the market price for the carbon, the CO2. Actual range in the marketplace has been about 10 to 14. So we're not going to see much of the way of gas price changes. And we're kind of lucky that this is being introduced at a time that the gas prices have dropped to begin with. And so that's kind of my nutshell, quick nutshell on this overview. And this is important because there's another program being discussed on a national level that relates to how to reduce our CO2 output. And so I'll introduce Robert, who's come from us to talk about the new. Let's mic you over, but to talk about another approach, an additional approach nationwide to again start constraining our use of carbon, not just in the transportation sector, but across the board.
All right.
There you go, in your pocket. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Guy. Oh, how do I advance this?
Just mouse click.
Mouse click. Okay. So tonight I'm going to talk about a national and international market-based approach to climate change. My name's Rob Beggs. I'm with Citizens Climate Lobby. I'm the co-leader of the Yolo County chapter. We also have other chapters. We have Sacramento and a new Roseville chapter. And the difference is AB 32 state level. This is proposed national legislation, and it would extend the effects to all our trading partners. And so that's where it's really important to get all our trading partners, get the whole world on the same page so that there's a level playing field, and so we address the problem. Global warming, the current status and trends. You are here, and this is in comparison to coming out of the last ice age. And that was the Roman Empire, ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, and the start of human civilization. And then depending upon what the emissions end up being and what the climate sensitivity is, they're looking at a range of somewhere, 2 degrees centigrade to substantially more. Some of the local effects, some folks go, well, I haven't seen anything going on around here, but actually there have been changes. It's subtle. And one thing you've probably noticed, well, you may or may not have noticed, depending upon how long you've lived in the area, but California-wide, the minimum temperatures have gone up about 2 degrees, so the nighttime temperatures have actually gone up a lot more than the daytime temperatures. Less two-leaf fog. I don't know how it is in Sacramento, but in Yolo County, we used to just get socked in, and we just hardly get it anymore. And that's something you would expect if you have, a warming blanket that doesn't allow the infrared to leave on the clear nights and create the ground fog. So. More frequent droughts, higher winter snow levels, less snowpack. Snowpack in the state, on average, is down about 10% over this last century. More frequent wildfires and rising sea levels. And the sea levels effect is going to particularly hit California hard because of the salt line in the delta. So it'll cause more salinity intrusion into the delta, which will affect the ability to move water through the delta. Just one interesting side note, there was something in I think it was the San Jose Mercury News, and there have been some studies about, you've probably read about them, the mega droughts in California. And some of these real dry periods happened back in what's called the medieval warm period. And that was back around, the year 900 to 1200. And this just shows how long-term aridity changes in the West actually sort of track temperature. And so that's just something, as the temperature goes up somewhat, there have been a couple studies that say that we're looking at more frequent drought periods. So what do we do about this? Well, Guy talked about the what's happening at the state. So we're going to talk about what could be done at the federal level. And so let's start with a simple market-based approach, something that preserves freedom of choice, minimal or no adverse impacts on the economy, fairness for households across the nation, and something that keeps a level international playing field for our farms and businesses. And so that would sort of be an ideal program, wouldn't it? And the simplest answer turns out to be a revenue-neutral carbon fee and dividend. And I underline revenue neutral because that's important when you see the analysis that's been done. So the fee and dividend plan, these are just some of the details. Would be a carbon tax, starts in 2016 at $10 per metric ton of CO2, and that equals about 10 cents a gallon on gas, just to give you a feel for that. Escalates at $10 per year through the 2030s for this particular study of the legislation. Real important, the point of extraction is where the fee would apply, at the wellhead or the mine or the port. That's where it would apply. And so it's very simple to apply this, and then it just propagates through the economy on its own without having to keep track of a lot of stuff. Fee and dividend, 100% of the carbon tax revenues would be refunded to American households in monthly checks or deposits. The refund size based on the number of adults and children. So kids under 18 would each be half a share, up to 2 kids per household, and then of course 1 full share for adults. Border adjustment, this is really important. And so the proposal for the border adjustment is to minimize the carbon leakage and preserve our competitiveness. And the way it would work is goods that are imported in the United States from countries that don't have an equivalent level of carbon fees, their products would be taxed for the equivalent carbon content of those products. So in other words, you know, if there are countries, China or India or whoever, and they don't have an equivalent tax, those imports here would have a tax to make up the difference. And then that money would be used to help subsidize our exporters. So to keep the playing field level. And so what we're really working on is a nonpartisan approach that Congress it's feasible to pass in Congress. And I think this is it. So we commissioned REMI. They're a big national economic modeling firm. I think they have the state's economic model, and they do models all over the country. We commissioned them to look at, so what would the effects be of our proposal? And they looked at it regionally, and those are the colored lines, and then nationally, and that's the green bars. And the PAC is us, Pacific States, and you can see that's sort of the pink line there. And this is changed from baseline. So what they looked at is, okay, if we put in this proposal just as tax reform, nothing else, not counting any benefits for the prevention of losses due to climate change. This is just straight tax reform, what would happen? And it turns out that over the 20-year period, the economy, or the employment actually increases a little bit from the baseline, which is pretty remarkable because, you know, we've all been told, well, you either have to, you know, do something for the environment, but if you do that, then the economy is going to suffer, and vice versa. But in this case, that's not really true. You actually, with this type of approach, you can actually have a very slight benefit to the economy, and you can have environmental benefits. That's the gross regional product and gross domestic product. Again, the green bars, the United States, and there's just a little bit of positive change in that. And this is Western states up there at the top, and the Western states do well under this proposal, or I should say the Pacific states. Monthly dividends, so how much money are we talking about? And this is in 2012 equivalent dollars. So for a household of 4, we're looking at, after 10 years, we're looking at about $300 a month. And after 20 years, we're looking at nearly $400 a month. So that's a pretty significant chunk of change. And you know, some of the argument you get or you hear, well, we should, when you say, gosh, we should have carbon fees, is, you know, some politicians will say, gee, we're really going to hurt, you know, the lower income folks because they have to spend more, you know, to get places to drive proportionally. But this actually, everybody gets the same amount. Proportionally, it means a lot more to lower income folks. And it actually turns out that about 2/3 of households would come out even or ahead with this program compared to the costs that they're seeing with increased gas costs, you know, increased utility costs, so on. CO2 emissions, looking at about cut in half in 20 years. So that's pretty good. How else do we know it will work? In British Columbia, they have a carbon tax. It's began in 2008. It's now at $30 a ton. They have good political support for it. all the money goes back in tax credits, both individual tax and corporate tax credits. And the GDP growth, you can see, or the GDP growth has been better than the rest of Canada, and you can see the difference in carbon emissions between the rest of Canada and British Columbia. So achieving the political will, it's interesting, pretty much all the major companies, including the oil companies, have already factored in a carbon fee into their business planning. So this is something that, you know, they're figuring out how they're going to deal with it. And it's also something you'll find most, you know, given alternatives, businesses tend to like this approach because of its predictability. They know what it's going to cost. They know what it's going to do. Some of the other approaches, businesses just don't know what the costs are going to be, so it's really difficult for them. So Citizens Climate Lobby, that's our group. What we do, we try to build grassroots support through letters to Congress, letters to the editor of papers, op-eds, direct meetings with members of Congress and their aides, and outreach presentations and events. And we've now got 212 chapters nationwide, and we had 600 volunteers at the national meeting and lobbying event in Washington, D.C. in June. And that's all of us down there. Local chapters. This is a map of local chapters in the area. We've got a Sacramento chapter, the Yolo County chapter, which I'm a member of, and the new Roseville chapter starting up. And any of you that are interested, we're welcoming new members and support. That's it. Questions? Yes, go ahead.
Does a company get a credit if their state already has a carbon tax?
This is independent of the state program. So it would be totally, you know, if AB 32 in whatever form it's in would continue along, and this would be to the side of that. So it would actually be, you know, any companies would have to deal with AB 32 and this.
Okay, but do they get to count the same tons toward both programs? So
Well, it's now AB 32 is very different because, and this is very different because this is at the, it's at the wellhead or the mine or the port, and so that's the only place that the tax is imposed. So AB 32, there's every industry, and I do a lot of work with food processors and stuff just as part of my job, and you know they have to keep track of just tons of stuff to say, well, this is how much carbon we're generating per this amount of product that we're using, and a lot of other industries do too. So there's a whole different record keeping setup for AB 32. This has no record keeping for the companies other than, you know, oil, gas, coal companies and companies that import. But it's stuff they have to already keep track of. It's just part of their, you know, standard business requirements. Yes?
So I actually did this as my master's thesis in 2008 in DC.
Oh, great.
And basically did a comparison between all different methods and came up with the carbon tax as the clear winner as far as being the least expensive to implement and the most transparent, the most effective. And had it included in the Albuquerque Climate Action Plan, actually.
Oh.
Write that. So. I'm just curious because that was back in 2008 and then 2010, and then there were Senate sponsors for 2013. It never made it through. You know, there wasn't the political will to accept a simple, transparent plan. And I guess.
So are you talking about the Waxman-Marley bill? Okay.
Yeah. So are there sponsors for the new bill? How's that doing? Does it look like it's going to happen anytime soon?
We're making good progress. Waxman-Markey was actually a cap and trade, so it was different than this.
No, this wasn't it.
This was a different one?
Carbon tax one that we were, because I was working with a CCL group at the time.
Oh, you were? Okay. Yeah. Do you know which? Well,
I just can't remember because it was like 6 years ago.
Oh,
but there was some kind of sponsorship happening, and there was some will at the time, and then it just dissipated. So I'm wondering, you know, is this really happening this time? Do we really have the supporters to make it happen?
We're growing at about doubling every year in terms of number of chapters and number of members, and
that's good.
Yeah,
as long as we can get Congress.
I don't know. You know, they're kind of keeping it close to their vest. They'd like to introduce the legislation middle of next year, but you know, they kind of need to line up, you know, all the support. But I've heard numbers that they think they're about 50 votes short in the House right now, but that's where they're, yeah. Well, but I mean, I think the opportunity is definitely there, and I think when you look at the alternatives, this one I think has the highest chance of getting through Congress.
Right, I mean, it makes total sense, which is why it's not getting passed.
Well, we're getting there. We'll see. Any other questions?
Why is there no incentive on the consumer side and a differentiation in the rebate the consumer or the individual gets?
Incentive in terms of?
Well, like if they drive an efficient car or if they have solar panels.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, it's sort of implicit in the way in the program, because you get the same amount of money. You get that, $400 a month per household, and you can choose to spend it on what you want. And if you're smart and you spend it on, your solar panels or electric car or whatever, you get to pocket a lot more of that money. Whereas if you keep driving, a car that's got lower mileage, you're just recycling the money, or you're actually falling behind. So it incentivizes people because, typically people will separate. They'll go, oh, I'm getting this check every month. And then they'll look at, oh, the price of gas has gone up $1. I think I'll get a more efficient car, or I'll get, an electric car or whatever. And so it still incentivizes, the higher price incentivizes people, and especially businesses, because it permeates the whole business world, and they look at, pricing changes, very, very rapidly and quickly. And so that's, it uses the market forces. That's, yeah.
How do you avoid a situation where if people react by conserving, and if everyone went out and bought an electric car, then you wouldn't be, the dividends at some point
Right.
aren't there because
Right.
So does it spiral down or what?
So it didn't show it in the 20-year span, but you could see it was leveling out a bit, and you get out past that, and they didn't run the model past that, but I talked to the modeler and he said, yeah, it'll start dropping off. So it would start dropping off after that point in time. Yeah.
I think the implicit thing that's maybe not shown here, and you would know well since you studied this for a master's, is that the implicit thing is that the sooner you adopt, the more benefit you reap. So if businesses understand what the climate's going to look like and they can predict it,
Right.
say, this is what it's going to look like for the next 10 years, 20 years, or whatever, or a consumer understands what the next 10 or 15 years is going to look like. If they make that investment decision now, it gets rid of the principal agent problem, first of all.
Right.
If they make that decision now, they've already made their investment, and then they'll just reap the reward of the dividends over a longer period of time. The longer you wait, the less incentive an individual will have.
Right. And predictability is a big thing with this, and that's, so that's a great point. I didn't show a slide. There was a slide about how the electric power generation changes, and basically coal drops off to about nothing by the mid-2020s, and wind picks up quite a bit, and then nuclear actually picks up in the southeastern part of the country quite a bit after that. So that just some of the changes. Anyway, oh yeah.
Does the agreement with China possibly move our new midterm Congress to do something?
It might. Conversely, I mean, because what this approach does is there's a uniform border tax then effectively, so all our trading partners would be incentivized to have the same level of carbon tax. And so it doesn't give, other countries any kind of advantage. And if you heard, a lot of the Republicans come out, and I can say this because I'm a Republican, they actually said, this is unfair to us, we're giving China a free pass and we're having to do all this, and yet with this approach, everyone's got a level playing field. So I think that aspect of it would appeal to Congress. So we'll see. We're working on it. And any of you who, I have handouts and other things, if any of you are interested. So thank you. Back to you.
We'll forward some, you want to send us some email, we'll forward that to the general membership.
Okay.
And if things that you might want, if those that are interested, if they want immediate steps, what they should be doing. All right. You might notice that in front of, many places on the tables, there's a band of cards like this. feel free to take those, and they have the general SacEV web address and such. So if you're at an event talking with people, you can say, check us out. Here's the web address. Has cars there for sale if you're has issues about home charging or workplace charging. So take a pile with you if you'd like, and freely pass them out. We have a lot more where those came from. Okay, so now I want to back up a little bit to talk about charging on the I-80 corridor and the Tahoe area. So with that, we have Anthony coming up. Thank you for coming to visit us and sharing all your knowledge and insight. Let me mic you up. Let's see.
I don't know if you need a microphone for all my knowledge and insight.
There we go.
Thank you. And thanks, Guy. I'm Anthony Andreoni. I'm with the California Municipal Utilities Association, and I'm here tonight because the person that has been talking about the Tahoe corridor, Stephen Poncelet, who is part of Truckee Donner, could not make it. I think he tried to make it last time, so I thought I'd just kind of give the group a little bit of an overview of what our members are doing. And just to kind of give you all some background, California Municipal Utilities Association does not represent the investor-owned utilities. It's probably the simplest way of saying it. PG&E, Southern Cal Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric. We represent the munis. SMUD's one of our largest members, as well as LADWP. Truckee Donner, Stephen Poncelet belongs to, is a very small publicly owned utility. Some of our utilities provide electricity. Some of them provide electricity and water, like LADWP, Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale. Some just provide, we do have water-only members that, service Placer County, for example, Placer County Water Agency, if you're from that area. So our members have decided corridor charging is important to them. And I assume this group probably knows a lot about corridor charging. Have you heard the term? Have you used the DC fast charger out here in front of SMUD? My vehicle, which is a Fiat 500e, cannot do the DC fast charger. The level 2 is pretty good though for it. So what our folks are trying to do is establish kind of a base of DC fast chargers. They also want to see level 2 chargers. But the corridor is really all about a mile or two off the freeway, in this case near Highway 50. Highway 80 is kind of a much larger corridor that's being looked at. I think there's a corridor down I-5 that California's been working with Oregon to try to place chargers along the path to make sure that you don't have range anxiety. But the corridor itself is really designed to be near population centers, where folks can get off the freeway, charge, stop, maybe see a movie, eat, shop, provide money to the economy, but at the same time take advantage of a quick charge and be able to continue on their way. So Tahoe, which is a destination city, is a perfect location given the fact that Tesla has now created a number of sites in Truckee. I think they've created 6 charging sites behind the Safeway. There's a number of cars driving from the Bay Area to Tahoe to vacation, and so they would like to be, as a destination location, have a number of chargers along the way. So our members are starting to tap into not only the money that they may have available, but money available through the Energy Commission. Recently, some of our Southern California members, which included LADWP, were provided grants, and they are going to be looking at providing DC fast chargers as well as level 2 and even level 2 curbside charging in various communities. So it's kind of an ongoing effort that our utilities are making to make sure that there are chargers along the highway as time goes on. Roseville is another entity, provides electricity. One of our members that are also working with EVGO, which is a subsidiary of NRG. NRG is committed to place a number of DC fast chargers and level 2 chargers along the state. Our folks are also working with those third-party providers to make sure that they're in areas that are most convenient for their community. The advantage of our folks is they are ready, they have the infrastructure, they know where good locations would be, and they can help out with the permitting and kind of get the process going. Although, so far at this point, it's been a little slow. It's taken a little bit more extra time to get those permits set in place and the charging sites up and running, as SMUD will attest to. SMUD is a unique situation. They actually develop their own network, and we work really closely with Bill Boyce on what they've done. That's being shared with many of our members. And I think as time goes on, those technologies that are being used will become more standard, and you'll see much of the same chargers throughout the state. Right now, it's a little bit hit and miss. If you're traveling on 80 and you happen to visit the Rockland area where I live, there is a new NRG station that was dispatched. It's up and running right at the new Walmart. So that's an example of work that they've been doing with Nissan in providing both a DC fast charger and level 2. So it's a nice convenience center. I know they created or built a Starbucks right next to it. So those are some of the things that we're working on. I didn't really prepare any slides, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for letting me come here. Mark?
As an association, are you guys trying to figure out how to reduce the non-equipment costs associated with DC fast charging? Because this unit here at headquarters, apparently 90% of the cost was associated with permitting and insurance and other components other than the unit itself.
I think that's a good question. I don't know as an organization that we are actually looking at all the other costs outside of permits and the capital costs. Many of our members are sensitive to the cost of establishing these sites, and I think they've decided to go with an NRG, for example, and reduce the overall capital costs, and then just provide the electricity and figure out after 10 years, because NRG is providing a 10-year maintenance agreement with those systems to deal with it. But the cost you're mentioning is something that I think everybody's going to have to eventually look a little closer at and try to help speed up the process.
Can you guys lobby for like uniform codes and standards or permitting across the state?
I think we could. I think we could. Our organization's been around for 80 years. Obviously, we are a lobbying organization. We can try to do what we can for codes and standards, but I think on the DC fast charger, nobody has yet agreed upon the standard communication protocol, the type of equipment. I think we have a good idea using what SMUD has developed to move forward. The question is, can many of the publicly owned utilities take advantage and use that same equipment over the next 10 or 20 years? And I'm not sure yet. That's something I think we do need to talk further about. Yeah, Guy?
Do you know if there are any active plans on some charges along that 80 corridor or in the upper part of the Tahoe area?
As far as I know, there are. Where those locations are yet hasn't been determined, but I know Truckee Donner is working with their local planning agencies to try to set up some additional chargers near their community and a little bit off their actual service territory. So they're looking at those sites. There are other organizations, like in Roseville, that is looking to place something either right on the 80 corridor or right off 65. So near that area. Between Roseville and Truckee, I'm not exactly sure yet where those sites are going to end up. That's still a work in progress. I think one of the biggest challenges is once you do find a site, getting the approval and making sure that the owner is willing and the parking, for the most part, parking space is not going to create a problem. We also have some other folks in Lodi, Merced area going towards down 99 that are also looking to add sites. City of Modesto, City of Turlock is also working with NRG.
Anything with Fresno? I always hear Fresno's kind of a black hole.
That area is still being looked at. I mean, that's an area that the Central Valley, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District is very interested in providing chargers along that freeway stretch.
Pretty desperately needed.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of the original sites, some of the landowners have kind of been a little slow about getting the approval process to allow either NRG or even our existing POUs to come in and take advantage of the sites that might exist. So there's a little bit of challenges here and there, and it really does amount to land use and future use, and we're hoping that that will eventually work its way out. It's going to take some time, though. All right, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, that's the, Becky.
I just wanted to add very quickly, NRG we put a bid with NRG to put a DC fast charger at the Raley's off of Freeport Boulevard. So hopefully that'll be coming soon.
And
Electric.
And I talked earlier this week with Raley's, and they're looking at a rollout over this coming year to most of their stores. What I'd like to go. I'm sorry, question?
So is it DC fast chargers or level 2?
I was thinking they were level 2s, but it sounds like in this case it's a level 3 fast charger.
It's a fast charger.
So I don't know if that's involved in their plans, but they do want us to look over their plans and provide them some advice. They're going with EV Go, I guess. I think their NRG is who they're working with.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about that.
Okay, I'll pass you the contact that I've worked with. And so last we have, but not least, Yeshua, who's working with us to try to look at doing some ride and drives and some show and tell events. Do you want to do a quick update as to what's going on there?
You can just keep it in your pocket. So there's little to share. As Amber had mentioned, I just received an email from her like an hour prior to this starting. So I really don't have much of an update besides like IKEA and Raley's and Gold Nugget are some potential locations where we'll be doing ride and drives. But we have to fulfill at least 3 by the end of the year. And we'll have 1 within the next 2 weeks, then 3 weeks, and then 5 weeks from now. So it'll happen quickly. So if anyone is available from those dates, just look forward to those emails that will come out. And if you are available, we'll love to have you participate. And probably 2 months from now, I'll give you an update. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you for everybody for coming. Again, thank you for SMUD for hosting this. And I appreciate the speakers spending their time to get here and share. Yeah.
I just have one really quick thing, Owen from Nissan. If you happen
Oh, we didn't.
by Freeport
Oh, that's
Bakery,
it.
you may notice a particular car that they have in their back lot, which they are borrowing from us for the next, till the end of the year, really. And thanks to Phil House Electric, they have a charging station available for it. So there is a shiny white Nissan ENV 200 now fully livered with Freeport Bakery on site.
Go buy fake goods.
Now we only need Nissan to bring the cars over here.
When
do they come
out?
If you're new to our meetings, SacEV, please put down your name, email if you would, and so we'll make sure that you get updates and notices about this in the future. And that'll be right by the shirt.